Hi class, here I am in the hospital, hooray! And what I've got is an IV right now. And because I'm not just a patient, I'm also a scientist. I was thinking about the IV from the perspective of biology and biochemistry, and I realized that everything to do with this IV is everything we've talked about so far in biology class. So I get to the emergency room and I have to wait and wait and wait, because of course you do. And I'm getting really dehydrated, but I'm not allowed to have anything. So by the time I finally get seen and they tell me I'm going to get a CAT scan, but then they asked me to pee in a cup. And I was like, I can't pee in a cup. I haven't had water in hours. They said, all right, well, we're going to give you fluids anyway. And then when you feel like you can pee in a cup, then go ahead. So they hooked up the fluids and it was dripping in really pretty quickly. And what I wanted to point out is that it's not just water that they were giving me. What they were giving me was like a saline solution. So it had electrolytes in it. Dissolved sodium chloride. Sodium chloride, of course, being an ionic compound with sodium on one side of the periodic table, chlorine on the other, dissolves in water because it's polar. The reason they give that is because if they gave just pure water, my poor cells were so thirsty that they would have sucked in all of that pure water. And that's what's called a hypotonic situation, where the water is way less concentrated with solutes than the cells. And my cells were so thirsty, they would have sucked in all that water and they could have popped, which would be bad. So the solution that they give you in an IV is a isotonic solution, which means it's got the same concentration of electrolytes in the bag as should be in your cells. So that the cells take in the water they need, but not anymore, and then the cells are nice and healthy again. And the blood circulating well and all of that good stuff. Okay, so I've got this fluid dripping in, and the bag's like half empty and in me already, and I'm already feeling less dehydrated, when the CT scan tech comes by and gives me like a liter of water and says, this liter of water has contrast dye in it, and you have to drink this in order for the CT scan to work. I was like, oh, okay, like I haven't had any water, and now it's like feast of famine. Now I got this whole bottle I gotta suck down. But I had an hour to drink it, and I got like half the bottle drank before when the IV finished. So they unhooked the IV, and I thought, okay, great, like now I can go pee. And so I went and peed in the cup, and it was like really yellow because I'd been dehydrated. So that makes sense. It was like morning pee, right? Okay, so then I finished most of the bottle water. The CT scan tech comes, and then I get the CT scan, which feels kind of weird. I don't know if you've had it before, but I can tell you about that later. And then I go back out to the emergency room area, and it's not half an hour since my last pee. But I've had so much liquid now that I go pee again, and it was, I'm not kidding you, clear as tap water, which is like exactly the stuff that we've been talking about when we were talking about water and water solute concentration and what dissolves and what doesn't, and making your pee be different colors. It was like my body suddenly had so much water, it didn't know what to do with it, and so it was just flushing it all out, just like all that rain in California after they've had years and years of droughts. Okay, so anyway, then after a little while, I'm going to be admitted to the hospital, and they're going to switch my switch my solution. And I was thinking that they might, because, well, I hadn't had anything to eat in like 24 hours or more. And so I started thinking, okay, well, how long can you go without food? And you can go weeks without food so long as you have water. And that's because animals store glucose in their livers in the form of glycogen, which is one of the 3 polysaccharides that you're supposed to be studying about for your test. And so I knew that I've got blood sugar storage in my liver, and now that I've got liquid, I can catabolize that blood sugar through the process of hydrolysis, because it takes water to take the big macromolecule of glycogen and have a little enzyme come and break off the little starch molecules, but you need water in order to do that process. So now I've had water, my blood sugar should be okay for a little bit because I've got some in storage. But they did end up switching my fluids. The fluids I have now, sure, you can't read the bag, but what it is, it's the saline electrolytes I was getting, plus dextrose and potassium. So I asked the lady, I said, okay, what's in this bag? And she said dextrose. And I thought, well, there you go. I know that dextrose ends in ose, which means it's a carb, which means they're giving me blood sugar, basically. And that should be enough nutrients to sustain me until I am allowed to eat again. And then she said the other ingredient was potassium, which is more electrolytes, but a different kind. Potassium's right under sodium on the periodic table, and so they're really similar kinds of electrolytes, but not exactly the same. And I happen to know that, and the lady confirmed anyway, the nurse confirmed anyway, that potassium, you can lose potassium if you've been throwing up or having diarrhea. But I happen to know that with a severe potassium deficiency, and I know it's because of various things I've read for anatomy class, what happens is that your nervous system can shut down. Your brain runs, your whole nervous system runs on potassium electrolytes, and so you definitely need those as well. And so everything to do with this IV that I've been getting is almost like line for line our course outline up till now, with cells maintaining homeostasis, water for life, things dissolving in water, ionic bonds and electrolytes, covalent bonds and carbs, and using them for energy and storing them as glycogen. And that's why you have to learn this stuff. Now I just got to figure out a way to IV some caffeine and I'll be all set. Good luck on your test.